Well, we hope you did not start Ben Roethlisberger. If you did and you're moving on, congratulations. You're probably one of the few. Welcome to the Week 16. Yeah, championship week.
We made it.
Waiver wire show. And not only did we make it, Dave, we've got one of the best waiver wire weeks of the year, right?
Yeah, I think this would qualify just in time for 80% of the people who play fantasy football to not have the chance to pick up these guys.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, not great timing. Jamie, waiverometer 0 to 10.
10. I mean, you have potentially 2 starting quarterbacks, 4 starting caliber running backs.
Yes.
The receivers aren't exactly great, but they're very good number 3 receivers, and a couple of starting tight ends. So it's pretty exciting. Two really great options in Jalen Hurts and Tony Pollard, especially Pollard if he gets a chance to start, and obviously Hurts based on what he's done.
Yeah, and this is the first week in a while where there weren't like 15 wide receivers that I found interesting. So it's an oddly kind of weak week for wide receivers, but it's pretty good everywhere else.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Like, you should be running to the running backs, but it's weak at it's a weak. All right.
Yeah, you were ahead and then you went back.
Yeah.
I've been there, Adam. I know what that's like.
New segment just for today. It's called We Hate the Steelers. Tell me how the Steelers screwed you in a fantasy matchup. Jay Burleson wrote in and said, non-PPR, I got talked into playing Juju even though he already won. A team in my league. It wasn't him. Oh, okay. Thank goodness, Jay. A team in my league got talked into playing Juju even though he already won, just in case there was a stat correction, and he lost by 0.34 because of the fumble.
Oh, my God.
That's horrible. Oh, that's terrible. We hate the Steelers for sure. Jamie, IDP league, I thought you had it locked up, man.
I did too. It's funny. I was playing against Jake Seeley of The Athletic, and he was the 2 seed. I was the 3 seed. And he was ahead by 20 points with Tyler Boyd. I had Roethlisberger and Ebron. So obviously the Ebron Boyd was negated because both of them had 0 fantasy points with their injuries. So I thought, okay, Roethlisberger will give me a shot. I was down by 8 when the Steelers were trailing 24-10. And I thought, okay, he'll get a touchdown in one of these 2 possessions that they'll get. And the Steelers, I thought would end up rallying and potentially tying the game. So when Benny Snell ran one, I'm like, okay, they'll get the ball back and he'll throw one in. And sure enough, they went 4 and out, and the Bengals pulled off the upset. So yeah, very frustrating for me in that league. Congratulations to Jake. But funny scenario based on the email that you said. I haven't checked. I'm going to go look. But I was up. The team I share with my brother-in-law, we were up with only Roethlisberger to go, I think by 11 points. I'm hoping there was not some screwy scoring in that league that I don't know. And he said, as he was actually on a trip, him and his family and my wife and kids for this weekend. So I called my wife and I was telling her, I was like, oh yeah, tell Kyle, my brother-in-law, that we won. And he goes, oh, no, don't say anything in case Roethlisberger has like negative 11 points. So I'm looking at the score. Thankfully, we won.
Oh, okay. He scored 8 points, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So
yuck.
Okay. All right, Dave. How about you? Do you hate the Steelers?
No, I love the Steelers.
Oh, you
love them. Hugs and kisses to the Steel City. The only competitive game that I had left going into Monday night was against Jamie, and it was a half PPR league. Jamie had Deontay Johnson. I had Mike Hilton and Minka Fitzpatrick, and I was up 20, and I finished winning by about 20.
You know what's interesting in that one, Dave, because I have Benny Snell. And
I know.
And I was
Thank you.
My team is awesome in this league.
Yes.
It's completely ravaged by injuries this season. Michael Thomas, Kenny Galladay, Christian McCaffrey. This is a 14-team PPR league. This would have been my 3rd time in the finals in 4 seasons had I beaten Dave. And Dave's team's really good. But this was my running backs for this weekend, including flex, was Zach Moss, Mike Davis, and Jamal Williams. I really thought, let me take a shot on Benny Snell of one of those guys. But I'm like, Williams will catch a couple passes. It was a favorable matchup. I thought maybe, some garbage time he would play well. He gets hurt. Obviously doesn't finish the game. Moss wasn't as he played well, but obviously Singletary broke off the run. Had I played Snell over Jamal Williams, what would the point difference?
I don't think you would have won because Johnson wasn't that great. I don't think Snell was worth 20.5 PPR, was he?
Johnson was pretty good yesterday.
No, I still would have fell short. Because Jamal Williams was 3 points and Snell was 18. So
I'm so glad I won too, because I started Kareem Hunt over Tony Pollard. And usually when I make a bad decision like that in a playoff game, it bites me. It bit me last week with Miles Sanders going on my bench, and I'm glad I survived. And I've got
I guess one other
week.
thing that I did consider, Dave, which would have put me ahead, was I was really torn between Traequan Smith and Michael Gallup, and I played Traequan just with the upside of him starting with Michael Thomas up.
So if you but at least Gallup scored first. So if you had gone with Gallup, Snell,
if I played Gallup and Snell, which I considered,
you would have caught me. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Hey, congrats, Dave. All right, so Dave loves the Steelers. Deontay Johnson and Benny Snell came through. Johnson had 8 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. I'm getting a little tired of people killing Deontay Johnson for his inefficiency, his yards per catch, whatever. The drops you can kill him for. But, like, I mean.
He played well last night.
They killed Juju. He did play. He made some tough catches. You got to get on Juju, too. And Ben was terrible. I mean, Roethlisberger was really awful.
Yep.
I guess we'll talk about it a little bit more later.
You like how his camp leaked that he's going to play in 2021 when he has a $41 million cap hit on the table?
Yeah, that was that was a really bad performance coming off of that report. But okay, anyway, the person who probably hates the Steelers the most is big Steelers fan Ryan Wilson. Check out the Pick Six podcast. He made a bet with John Breach that he has to get a tattoo that Breach will now design if the Steelers lost to the Bengals, which of course seemed unfathomable, but it happened. And Ryan Wilson is going to have to get a tattoo. And this is pretty amazing. Follow me on Twitter. It's hysterical. Check out the Pick Six podcast. Top waiver wire priorities. Here we go. Jamie, give me a few names. Who are we looking at?
Jalen Hurts and Tony Pollard to me are the 2 stars. Hurts, again, he's got top 5 upside this week. He's in my top 5. I think there's a great opportunity against the Cowboys with what he's shown you as a rusher. We talked about this last week. I was really excited about him last week. He was a starting quarterback for me in start sit, and he was clearly awesome, 43 fantasy points. So he's a star and a league winner. And Tony Pollard could be the same thing. He had 12 carries for 60 yards and a touch, or 12 carries for whatever yards he had, 6 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. I'm sorry. He had 2 rushing touchdowns and 6 catches for 63 yards on 9 targets. So he did a great job filling in for Ezekiel Elliott. He's been much more explosive than Elliott. He's dealing with the calf injury, and another great matchup against Philadelphia. They've struggled running back so late. So those are the 2 standouts by far. And then after those guys, I hope Jeff Wilson's healthy. He's dealing with an ankle injury. He's got a chance to be a starting fantasy running back this week with his matchup against the Cardinals. And the same thing for Savon Ahmed if Myles Gaskin is out. So those would be the top 4 guys. I think Ahmed shown you enough in the 3 times that he's played without Gaskin, especially with this matchup this week against the Raiders. He's got top 12 upside. So hopefully Gaskin sits out 1 more week.
Okay. First of all, let me go back to Pollard. The Eagles do give up a lot of touchdowns, but they have a good run defense. And Pollard, he had a 40-yard touchdown run. Dave talked about this on Sunday. He had a 40-yard touchdown run. Other than that, he probably had about 11 carries for like 25 yards. I don't remember the stats right off the top of my head. So I don't know are you concerned about that? And then, the Eagles are really good against pass catching running backs. So there's that. There's also Pollard, Wilson, Ahmed. They all could be number 2 running backs on their own team. Zeke could be back. You never know with Mostert and Gaskin. I thought we were expecting Gaskin to come back. So
it's hard to say when they're placed on the COVID list. We don't know.
That's true. So yeah, I mean, how aggressive? I guess it's kind of a different question now when there are only 2 teams left. But Dave, do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you see downside with these running backs?
The only downside I see in terms of adding them to your roster, forgetting about like what they could do for your fantasy team, is if you're debating getting them versus Jalen Hurts. Like if you need a quarterback and a running back, maybe you made it to your final with Ben Roethlisberger and James Robinson, and now you aren't going to feel good about going with either of those guys. How do you prioritize the list? And I think you've got to play it really safe here and take the quarterback who is going to play versus the running back who, and it's for all 3 of them. I think Pollard would be the starter. I think he showed plenty for the Cowboys to say, okay, we're going to let Zeke rest. He's our future at the position. Maybe let's just let him rest and let's see what Tony Pollard can do. And maybe Pollard will be the future at the position. Wilson, good running back capable of handling the load against Arizona. Let's let Raheem Mostert with his ankle cool off. Shut him down maybe for the rest of the season. Same thing with Ahmed and Gaskin if Gaskin isn't ready. But because there's a little bit of uncertainty, especially with the first two guys, Pollard and Wilson, I would prioritize Hurts first and lock in those fantasy points for the championship game.
Is there
I saw this stat. It was fascinating on Pollard. This is from an NFL Network producer. Tony Pollard has as many 20-plus yard plays from scrimmage since week 9 as Ezekiel Elliott has in his last 345 touches.
So going back to last year, it is alarming. It's a good sign for Pollard too.
Yeah. But
and I liked the reason why I feel okay with Pollard, even with that matchup at him, is because of the receptions. And yes, Philadelphia is good against pass catching running backs. I still think Andy Dalton will lean on him in the passing game, and there's potential for him to have another 5 catches.
And like you said, Adam, they give up touchdowns. They've allowed a running back to score or gain at least 100 total yards in 6 games in a row.
How about they've allowed a touchdown or a running back in all but 4 games this year?
Yeah. And so this is Philadelphia we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's who Pollard's playing. But this is a huge game. Every team is still alive in the NFC East. So that makes me feel like if Zeke can play, they will bring him back. They are not going to just rest him. They're not auditioning for the future right now. They're trying to win the division.
Right, but if Pollard is their best player.
Yeah, but do you think Jerry Jones is treating it that way? And they are in a tough spot.
Well, here's what's going to happen if Zeke ends up playing. If Zeke ends up playing, it's going to be both of them.
Yeah.
There won't be one guy getting 70% of the snaps. It's going to be both of them in and out of the lineup.
Right, and that wouldn't be good. So I guess, could you make a case that Daryl Henderson is the best waiver wire option?
No, because he stinks every time he gets an opportunity.
Well, that's not true. He was pretty good earlier this year.
Yeah, but I mean, the sample size from the beginning of the season through the middle to the end until Lakers took over was miserable.
No, I think he started playing poorly after the Miami game when he hurt his ankle. I think it was his ankle. And I don't know if he's hurt or not, but he's been pretty bad since then. And Cam Akers has taken the job, but he was a pretty reliable running back.
I mean, you know what the situation is with Seattle. You got to score. So if he scores, he'll be okay. He scored against them in the first meeting. He had 7 carries for 28 yards in that game. So I mean, it's just the track record for me is he's a flex at best. So I think there's much more upside at this point. And look, like Dave said, we're talking about 2 managers for the most part in every fantasy league. Now, there are people that are competing in a consolation game in some cases. There are leagues that play into week 17. So it's probably a little bit broader the scope that we're talking to people here. But for the most part, it's just, winner versus, the 2 teams playing for the championship. So if you're starting Daryl Henderson, you're probably stuck. These other guys, though, have so much more upside if they get those jobs. So if you're looking at Henderson versus Wilson versus Pollard versus, you want to throw Benny Snell in there too, obviously, with what he showed you last night. Also tough matchup, but I just think Henderson's behind those guys.
Okay. And Dave, Benny Snell needs to be mentioned as well. Maybe Connor's back next week, but Snell's been pretty solid 3 of the 4 games where he's gotten a lot of work. What about Le'Veon Bell? He's 73% rostered, I believe. If he is out there, and Pollard and Wilson and
I'd prioritize him 3rd. If you can still get your hands on Le'Veon Bell, like I'd rather have Pollard and Wilson, with the exception being that if you just absolutely have to play it safe and you want a guy who is going to play and have a good role, Bell will. We can say that about Bell on Tuesday morning.
The thing about Le'Veon that makes me a little nervous is they are clearly going to the playoffs. They are, I think, locked into the 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken, after Pittsburgh's loss last night. Because Buffalo has 3 losses and Pittsburgh has 3 losses.
I think they have to win this week.
Okay, so they have to win this week. They just saw Edwards-Helaire go down. They don't know what his status is for the playoffs. Are they going to run Le'Veon Bell into the ground in this game?
No.
Or are they going to mix and match with Daryl Williams?
Yes.
Knowing that they have to have some semblance of a guy who they can trust, and clearly they trust Bell over Williams. So I just don't know how much work Bell will get in this game, and maybe even next week at all if they play. So I'd be a little bit cautious about Le'Veon Bell after watching Clyde Edwards-Helaire get hurt.
And plus, we just saw 3 weeks ago, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was out and Bell stunk, but they've been running the ball a little bit more lately.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good sign. By the way, Jeff Wilson said he's fine. There are no issues. He did have an injury, So if you take him at his word, that's a great sign. If Mostert's out, then it's a good thing for him, obviously. If you need 20 points from your quarterback this week, you're a little worried. You got Roethlisberger. Maybe you're worried about Russell Wilson or something. Maybe Jalen Hurts isn't available. How about this? All these quarterbacks are set up for, at least 20 points. Baker Mayfield at the Jets. 6 of the last 7 quarterbacks to face the Jets have scored 23 or more. That's 6 point per passing touchdown leagues, by the way. Trubisky against Jacksonville. A quarterback has scored 20 or more against Jacksonville in 8 straight games. Stafford's hard to trust because he's really injured, but Tampa Bay has allowed 19 or more fantasy points to 8 straight quarterbacks and 29 or more to 4 of their last 6. So they've been horrible against quarterbacks lately, the Bucs. And Tua Tagovailoa, 5 of the last 7 quarterbacks to face the Raiders have scored 21 or more fantasy points. So it's really just loaded at quarterback, loaded at running back, not bad at tight end and wide receiver. There are always wide receivers.
You didn't mention Dalton also, who's got a good matchup as well, given the state of what Philadelphia's secondary looks like. And he scored 20 or more in 3 of the 5 starts he's made since coming back.
Yeah. So we'll give you your news and notes, and we'll give you some more waiver wire names. We'll recap that Monday night game. But CBS Sports and Westinghouse are teaming up to give away 10 prizes for the holidays. That's even better than the waiver wire. This is including a curved gaming monitor and a portable power station, perfect for tailgates. You want one of these gifts, people? Go to cbssports.com/happyholidays to enter. We'll get the link in the episode description. The contest ends on Christmas on December 25th, so go to cbssports.com/happyholidays. And Ben, you're going to have to remind me to put the episode link in the description because I
on it.
Okay. But I'm not going to forget about Twitch tonight at 8 p.m. No, not our last. We're going to do one next week as well, I assume. But waiver wire Tuesday night. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't commit to that. Sorry. I have commitment issues. Anyway, Twitch 8 p.m. tonight. Let's just do that. No Twitch Thursday, right, Ben?
No Twitch Thursday, twitching Sunday, and then next Tuesday we'll have a season recap. That'll be our final Twitch.
There we go. I knew it. All right. So tonight at 8 p.m. we'll see you there. Twitch.com/FF today. Cam Akers is out for the rest of the regular season with a high ankle sprain. And Ezekiel Elliott might play. James Robinson has an ankle injury. That's not exactly a situation where we're rushing to grab his backup. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, same situation as Cam Akers. Christian McCaffrey could be back this week. Wouldn't that be nice? George Kittle, could he be back this week?
Yep.
He could.
Has a chance.
Oh, my gosh.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Waiver wire, 71% rostered. Eric Ebron and Tyler Boyd left early. They did not have catches. Ito Smith is Atlanta's lead running back. Anybody want Ito Smith at Kansas City?
Obviously the Falcons do. I don't know why.
Because their other choices absolutely suck.
True.
Yeah, he's been the best guy lately. There's no question.
Yeah, but their best guy is like the worst guy for fantasy. You've got to be super duper desperate to go with Ito.
Seattle is going to get Greg Olsen back this week. They could get Josh Gordon this week. Huge game against the Rams.
Huge.
Stephon Gilmore is out for the season. John Brown is a name we haven't mentioned yet, but he could be a very popular waiver wire pickup. And Stephon Diggs hurt his foot. We know that. We're expecting him to play. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
The expectation is yes, but they're going to monitor it. And again, another situation where how much will Buffalo press him if he's not 100%, knowing that they're clearly headed for the playoffs.
Yeah, but they've got a real chance of that 2 seed. Now, I don't know how much that matters. They're not getting a bye anymore with the 2 seed, but it is a nice thing to have. They are the 2 seed.
Oh, I'm sure the 2 seed matters a lot to them.
Are they the 2 seed right now? Let's look at that.
Yes.
They're the 2 seed right now. Yes.
Yeah, they took over. They are 11-3. Pittsburgh is 11-3, but they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when the Steelers lose to the Colts this week, and the Browns beat the Jets, that's going to set up a Week 17 showdown. Right, Browns and Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens if the Steelers,
get ready for the NFL to flex that game?
What happens if the Steelers win this week and the Browns win? Because the Steelers beat the Browns earlier, so who would get the tiebreaker if the Browns beat the Steelers in Week 17?
I think the Steelers would have a game advantage on them, right?
Well, they're a game up now. So if they both win, they go into week 17. If the Browns beat the Steelers,
What's
they'll
their
finish-
divisional record? Who's got the better?
They would both end up at 6-2 or 6-2 in that scenario. No.
In
I'm
the
sorry.
division,
Sorry,
that's
sorry,
impossible.
I'm looking at their.
tiebreaker.
The Steelers would have the better record. So
Okay.
I guess that means the Steelers clinch the division if they win this week.
Sounds right.
Probably.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they've got to win one more game to clinch the division.
All right, let's go back to the waiver wire. Top 3 at each position. Let's get some more names out there. Dave, quarterbacks: Jalen Hurts and
Hurts is 1, Trubisky is 2, Mayfield is 3, and you only asked for 3, so I won't tell you that Mariota's 4.
So you said Mayfield 2?
No, Trubisky 2.
Trubisky 2. Okay, Jamie, how do you?
Hashtag Jaguars.
It is Jalen Hurts 1, Baker 2, Trubisky 3.
Do you guys?
And you
care?
could have said hashtag Jets for
Yeah,
Mayfield. I mean, both of them have really good matchups, but
Baker is on fire
playing
right now.
great.
He is absolutely playing out of his mind, looking like the number 1 overall pick from a few years ago. Just fantastic performance against the Giants. Obviously, they were down several guys in their secondary, but 4 straight games of just solid production fantasy-wise, and 3 straight games of just excellent football. He is playing very, very well right
playing in rhythm, throwing well, good accuracy. But I think Trubisky might have a little bit of a higher ceiling.
because the Jaguars have a better chance of staying in it than the Jets.
No, because I think the Bears are willing to throw it either way, and Trubisky will run it a little bit more.
Want a prediction? The
Okay.
Jaguars are going to win, and the Jets are going to be so pumped.
That's you want that for the Jets fan in your life.
No, I don't care. I mean, I don't really think that's going to happen, but the Jaguars are better than the Jets. They actually might win another game. The Jets.
No, the Jaguars are actually smarter than the Jets at this point. They got their win. They realized how stupid it was, and now they're playing their worst quarterback in Gardner Minshew.
All right, running
true.
backs. So we talked about. I don't know how much more we want to get into this, but let's just throw it out there again. Jamie, the top running back priorities.
Tony Pollard is 1.
All
Jeff
right,
Wilson.
let's put Le'Veon Bell. Let's say Le'Veon Bell's available. Now rank them.
Tony Pollard is 1. Savon Ahmed is 2. Jeff Wilson's 3. Le'Veon Bell's 4.
Okay, and so your big concerns about Bell are the workload.
I just don't know how much that he'll actually have to play in this game because they typically throw to score, they throw to win, and they run when they feel like it.
Plus,
Yeah.
is Le'Veon good?
Well, I mean, Le'Veon just had his best game of the season with 14 PPR points.
Yeah.
Obviously, no Edwards-Helaire, and the Falcons' run defense has clearly been better since Raheem Morris has taken over, but they have allowed some production the last few weeks. They did allow 2 touchdowns to another retread guy that everybody hates in Leonard Fournette. So we'll see. It's a different offense, different animal, but I just don't know if Le'Veon's going to walk in and get 20-plus touches in this game and have the success I think that people are hoping for.
Yeah, 20-plus touches would be very surprising because Daryl Williams is definitely going to have a role, and you just don't often see these running backs getting that much work. All right, wide receivers. Dave, who are the top wide receivers this week?
My top wide receiver is Russell Gage, who's given you good PPR numbers each of the past 3 weeks. Emmanuel Sanders is right behind him. Hollywood Higgins right behind him. None of these guys would be any better than the lowest of low-end number 2 fantasy wideouts.
Jamie's got a different name atop the list.
Yeah,
Right?
John Brown for sure for me. I mean, if Diggs is out, then John Brown's in an amazing role, and John Brown was playing great before he got hurt, and now they're taking on a Patriots team without Stephon Gilmore that's clearly packing it in at this point. So if the way that Josh Allen's playing, if you tell me that Stephon Diggs is out and John Brown is in, he's number 1 by far, and it's not close.
All right, what
Yeah,
if
but
he's
it doesn't
not?
sound like that's going to be the case, though. It sounds like Diggs is going to be okay. I
You're,
mean,
you're taking chances with any of these guys. I like Russell Gage a lot. I like Rashard Higgins a lot as well. But I think if you're taking for the most upside of any of these guys, it's John Brown by far.
could you let's say I really needed a receiver. I'm set everywhere else. Could I wait to pick up John Brown? Because I'm figuring that the 1 to 3 other fantasy managers in my league may not be as keen on adding Brown, and I can go and get Gage
I mean, you
first.
can,
Or would you
but
rather
I-
hold on? Or would you rather get Brown first, knowing that Gage, Sanders, Higgins, they're not exactly superstars? You could double back for them later if Brown ends up not playing, or if Diggs does end up playing.
There's no superstar of this group. Gage has played well, but we know the Chiefs have not given up a lot of fantasy points to receivers all season long. However fluky it may be, it is what it is. Higgins against the Jets. Great matchup. Will they run? Will they throw? I mean, I think that's kind of why you're a little down on Baker Mayfield as opposed to starting Trubisky. You said the same thing about Jared Goff last week, and that backed its way into proving itself correctly by the Jets performing the way that they did. But I mean, if you think that you can't get if you think that you have to get one of those other guys to get guaranteed production, then sure, don't take John Brown first. But if you're looking for the most upside, I don't see it in anybody other than John Brown.
Well, I think the other thing is John Brown has been really good even when Diggs has played. Diggs has played every game.
Right.
John Brown, he still could have a really good game. Russell Gage at the Chiefs is very interesting because the Chiefs have allowed 97 yards or a touchdown to 6 wide receivers in their last 6 games. I'm sorry, I'm just not buying that they're good against wide receivers. Sometimes good wide receivers disappoint, but I'm just not buying it. And those stats I just gave doesn't even include like Lynn Bowden, who counts as a running back in CBS scoring, and he was pretty good against them. So, and then Emmanuel Sanders, I think he's a must start when Drew Brees is healthy and Michael Thomas isn't. He's a must start. Like, he had 75 yards and Drew Brees had a terrible game. And now he's facing Minnesota. I think, he's 71%.
Great opportunity. I mean, he's just not in the range of the guys that we are typically talking about.
You don't think he's in the Russell Gage?
No. He's
not in the range of the
of
percentages.
Oh, okay.
If he's available, sure. Sanders should be first.
Like over John Brown?
Nah, second.
Okay. All right. So those are the prizes, at least. Just John Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Russell Gage, and Rashard Higgins, who's at the Jets, and the Jets 22nd against wide receivers.
What's the latest on John Brown? Like, is it likely
he's activated off IR? He was practicing last week, but not off the IR list yet. So he's eligible. It's like the same thing with Kittle.
Okay. So we don't know that he's for sure coming back.
There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee he plays. Again, that's why it's an upside play. If Diggs is out and if he plays, then you're looking at him as a starting wide receiver, where these other guys, to me, aside from Emmanuel Sanders, are number 3 receivers.
Okay, I just want to check one thing here because I want to see if he's in the projections. So if
he was last week.
He was?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're looking at wide receiver, because the reason I bring it up is if John Brown's not in the projections, then he might not get picked up. People might not think to pick him up. And that means maybe you should prioritize Russell Gage or something ahead of him if you're in a CBS league. Not seeing him right now.
If it's your title game, you probably have multiple players on your bench that you're for sure not starting.
Right.
So you can go and get both of them. And if you want to put Brown first on your waiver wire priority, just so no one else in your league can get him or whatever, then go ahead. And then you've got 2 receivers, and then you just start the one who's healthy.
All right, let's go to Jamie. Who are the best tight ends to pick up this week?
It's Higbee and Hooper for me. You saw both of them score last week. Both have very good matchups this week. Higbee scored in 2 of his last 4, 2 of his last 3. So maybe he's getting hot at the end of the season again, like he did last year. I don't expect it to be the same thing because at this point last year he was amazing. But taking on a Seattle defense that's really been bad against tight ends. They couldn't stop Logan Thomas last week, so he's in a good spot. And then Hooper gets the Jets. As we know, they've been miserable against tight ends, including Higbee last week. So both guys, if you want to gamble, have good opportunities to beat up on some defenses that have really struggled with tight ends all year long.
The Jets are like the Cardinals now. They're that bad against tight ends. It's really amazing. So you like Higbee better than Hooper?
I've gone back and forth on both. I think just Higbee's a little bit more involved in his offense. Hooper is so touchdown or bust at this point. It would not surprise me if he scores, but that could be 2 catches for 6 yards and a touchdown. That's just kind of the stat line that he's been giving you.
And I think it completely helps Higbee that Akers is out, because if that run game can't get going, they're going to have to lean on other guys to help move the chains, and Higbee's a perfect one for that.
Yeah, Schrager just got me Tyler Higbee's snap share last 3 weeks, 83% or more.
Mm-hmm.
3 straight.
I believe Everett left last week for a brief.
He had a concussion. He was checked for a concussion.
Right.
He passed the protocol and he came back.
Yeah, but
in.
it doesn't matter. It's 3 straight weeks, 83, 87, 84% snap share. They are going more 2 tight ends lately.
But I think some of that is a byproduct of them running the ball more. I'd like to know what his route percentage is.
Maybe Schrager can come up with that. He's pretty good at this guy.
Hey.
All right.
We'll see.
What about a third guy if I can't get Hooper or Higbee?
I look at Akins. I mean, the Bengals have been bad against tight ends for the majority of the season. He just had 5 targets. So hopefully he has an opportunity here once again to, be a target, be an option for Deshaun Watson. It's not a great week for the guys past those two, because the other option that stands out to me would be Smythe, just in case there's a chance Gesicki is out, because the Raiders have been bad against tight ends. But in terms of like the guys that are under 65%, now obviously George Kittle should be picked up just in case he starts. You should still see if Logan Thomas was out there. In one of our leagues, I was shocked. Our magazine league, Logan Thomas was still available last week. So people may have dropped Noah Fant as well, coming off a strong game. Great matchup this week against the Chargers. So there are some guys that could be available in terms of that range. But in terms of the range that we typically talk about, to me, it's Higbee, Hooper, and really nobody else.
Dave, do we like any streaming DSTs this week?
The Cardinals are my favorite of the ones that are available in more than 40% of CBS leagues. If the Bears are still out there, then you can grab them. They're available in 38%. But Cardinals, I'll take the chance on the Texans against this Bengals offense. Chargers, Panthers. Arizona's my favorite against the 49ers, especially if there's no Mullins under center.
Right. And that's a possibility.
It might be better if Mullins under center.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, very turnover.
But I'll take the Cardinals either way. 49ers are giving up tons of points to opposing DSTs.
Are there any DSTs that we'd normally start that we would start, say, the Bears or the Cardinals over? Yeah, Steelers against the Colts. You'd start the Bears, and would you start the Cardinals over the Steelers?
Yep,
I would.
Interesting. What about the Rams?
The Texans over the Steelers too.
About the Rams at Seattle?
I've got the Rams one spot behind the Steelers, and I've got the Texans behind them.
So Cardinals or Rams? Sorry.
Cardinals.
And Bears or Rams?
Bears.
And who do you
Bears,
like?
Cardinals, Steelers, Rams for me. Sounds like Jamie likes the Rams over the Steelers.
Yes.
What about Seahawks?
Well behind them.
Not too far behind them, but behind them.
Okay. It'd be interesting to see what the Seahawks, they've had such an easy schedule lately. See what they do against the Rams. I wish they would flex that game. But Tennessee at Green Bay is pretty good for Sunday night. That's not bad. That's actually awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great game.
Should be fun.
Got some teams are really stepping up now. Tennessee.
There's going to be people who check their fantasy scores going into Sunday night, and they're like, "Yes, I'm up 15," and then they look and they see they're playing against Derrick Henry and Aaron Rodgers.
I was up.
They're done.
I was down. Excuse me. I was down in a league that's PPR with very heavy scoring for DSTs. I was down 100 points going into the 4:00 games on Sunday, and I still had.
Guess who he had?
Jalen Hurts.
I had Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Hopkins, and Travis Kelce. But I was against the Rams defense. This was factoring in the 100 points. We start with 25 points on defensive scoring. And I'm like, there's no chance. The Rams are going to slaughter the Jets. This is I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't look through the first half. Now, obviously, I'm watching the game, so I'm seeing Hurts, do well. I saw Kelce score. I see Hopkins is doing okay. And so halftime I check, and at that point I cut it to 50. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I got a shot if this keeps up. But there's no way Hurts going to keep doing this. And, Hopkins hadn't scored at that point. And Kelce had kind of petered off a little bit. And then I check again after the third quarter, and now I cut it to 20. And so now I'm texting with the guy, and I said, man, this is a great – and we're clearly like the semifinal off the charts. The other one is much more low scoring. We both would have won easy. And so I'm texting with him. This is Brett Tresky, Dave. It's the softball.
BT, yeah.
Former CBS former Sportsline employee from way back in the day. So I'm texting with him. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna catch me. This is awful." And I ended up beating him by 20. It was just
wow,
like such
what a nightmare.
After Hopkins had the long reception, I forget how long it was, but down the left sideline, he texted me. He goes, "Congrats."
That's gonna eat at him for months.
Yeah,
he choked, man. He should feel really bad about that. He did a horrible
100 points. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting destroyed.
That's awesome. Any kickers to pick up?
Yeah, Ryan Suckup, because a lot of people dropped him. Detroit gives up a lot of production to kickers. If you're willing to risk it, Cody Parkey. Jets, I think, are number 1 in fantasy points allowed to kickers. At least they were last week. And Fairbairn taking on the Bengals. Home game. You don't have to worry about weather. And you know that the Texans offense will probably move the ball against the Cincinnati defense.
Cool. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Cincinnati 27, Pittsburgh 17, and then more waiver wire debates for you here on Fantasy Football Today. If we have time, I'll try to read some emails as well. We'll be right back. Cincinnati with a 10-point win over Pittsburgh. I think it dawned on me. I don't know. I still kind of felt like at halftime that the Steelers were going to win.
Same.
I thought they were for sure going to win when they came out on fire in the third quarter.
Yeah, when Deontay Johnson caught the touchdown, I was like, okay, it's over. They were so bad yesterday. They were so bad.
You never count out Ryan Finley's rushing abilities.
Their defense is so beaten up, Pittsburgh.
Yep.
It's, like going into week 16, when I saw a few of my championship teams that I thought was going to, I'm like, oh, well, John Taylor's going to have a good game, but not a great game. And then they lost another linebacker. And it's just like they can't stop anybody against the run.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they did pretty well against 25 carries for 83 yards. But he scored 2 touchdowns. Let's talk about Giovanni Bernard because he might be available.
No, let's not.
Yes, let's talk about him.
You guys do it. I'm mad.
He got all the work, and he's at Houston this week. It's
not terrible
matchup. Come on, so talk about it. You don't have to love him, but you have to talk about him.
Yeah, he's in the flex conversation. I would take all the guys that we're talking about here over him, including Benny Snell, including Daryl Henderson. Guys that have a little bit tougher matchups because at least their workloads will be consistent. There's also a chance Joe Mixon comes back. He returned to practice last week.
You don't think Giovanni Bernard is going to have a bigger role than Daryl Henderson?
He probably will, but Mixon returned to practice last week. If they decide to play him, who knows? I just don't want to trust the Bengals. That's kind of what it comes down to. I'm sure Dave probably feels the same way. Bernard is just a guy who's let us down more times than not. This was a very surprise performance, for the Bengals, obviously, but for Bernard mostly. And part of it is, I think, them playing with the lead helped. I don't think they're going to be playing with the lead against the Texans, even though the Texans aren't great.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise performance. And not trusting the Bengals is a good fantasy strategy. How about, Dave, trusting the Steelers? How many of them are you going to trust this week against the Colts?
I'm okay with Snell if Connor doesn't play. It sounds like there's a chance Connor could play. So you got to keep an eye on that, and you just got to wait and see. Deontay Johnson is clearly Ben Roethlisberger's favorite receiver. Look at the targets. Even last week when he was benched for almost 2 quarters, he still had 7 targets in the game. So he's an easy start, especially in PPR. Having the guts to start Juju or Claypool at this point, though, could be a little bit tougher. I guess Juju you could probably make the case for as a low-end number 2 receiver, and Claypool as a boom-bust flex.
All right, and that's the end of that chapter. There were so many good movies on last night.
I will say, though, I'm sorry, before you go there, Adam, Higgins and AJ Green, if you're completely stuck, Higgins obviously is the better of the 2 by far. But if Boyd's out with the concussion, that's a miserable secondary that they're playing and probably chasing points. And so, if you're desperate for a number 3 receiver in deeper leagues or a flex option, I would look at Higgins if he was dropped and even AJ Green if you're stuck.
Okay, I was about to talk about movies.
Sorry.
And you brought it back to fantasy football. That's ridiculous. But no, this is my I hate the Steelers. I just really wanted to watch The Dark Knight Rises because I cannot not watch. If that movie is on, I have to watch it.
Dubane.
No. But it's so.
Here, I'm gonna set you up. You are a fantasy manager. You're a fantasy manager.
I can't do it anymore. I cannot do it.
And you're
That's
Bane.
why it's good. That's why you should do it.
I've been working on my elbow.
No, you listen, and you do what I tell you. You're a fantasy manager.
Jamie talking to Adam like he talks to his kids.
And you're Bane.
Like you're in charge.
Yes, there you go. You're a fantasy manager and you're Bane, and you're staring across at the Steelers, who are Batman, in the dungeon and whatever it was.
Yeah.
Go ahead, do it.
No, I can't.
You just did it. It was good.
Yeah, but I can't do it. I'm not comfortable.
You know what might bring you back is if you just, the line that you say, your Bane line.
I can't do it.
Just start with I was wondering. Just start with I was wondering.
I can't get there. No, I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry.
You can't say I was wondering?
I was wondering what would break first. Big Ben Roethlisberger. Go Spirit. No, I can't do it. I don't have it anymore. I used to be good at impressions. I'm just not good anymore.
Somebody shattered your confidence in your impressions.
I can't do it anymore. What do you think about my Elmo?
This is going to hurt.
I can't do it anymore. I just now I'm just nervous about Elmo, but I've been doing a lot of Elmo and it's pretty good. and cook. I have a pretty good cookie monster as well.
I am too. My
That's
son
my
bought a
life.
bunch of Oreos and they're half gone because of me.
All right, waiver wire. Drew Brees. If Drew Brees is available, are you picking him up or Hurts, or is Hurts ahead of everyone?
Hurts is ahead of
Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
All right. Is Hurts top 5 this week for you?
Yes.
I currently have him 5th. He may fall as far as 7th.
Okay. So then let's do Drew Brees versus either Baker Mayfield or Mitchell Trubisky. Who would you go with?
Brees.
I currently have Brees 1 spot ahead of Trubisky and 3 spots ahead of Mayfield.
How many of them
Spot
would
ahead
you
of Baker.
start? Oh, I'm sorry. How many of them would you start over Russell Wilson?
I would start Hurts and I would start Brees, and I'm considering Baker.
I've got Hurts, Brees, and Mitch all ahead of Russ Wilson, and I'm considering Baker over Russell Wilson too.
Where do you have Wilson?
Right now,
Let's see
12.
what the number is. The number for me is 13. Lucky 13.
Now I'm about to sing the number of the day song from Sesame Street. All right. What if Phillip Rivers is available at Pittsburgh? Any interest?
No.
Tua Tagovailoa. He just doesn't throw a lot, but the Raiders stink. So thoughts on Tua?
If he gets his
debating-
guys back, he's much more interesting if Gesicki and Parker play. But like you said, they should be able to win this game with Mariota on the other side. And I think this is not a huge game for Tua, but a game if you're stuck and you need a fantasy quarterback, then he's okay in that regard.
Tua or Roethlisberger?
Tua.
Because I've got Roethlisberger higher. That's one I'm going to look at this week. But
Tua,
that's how far Roethlisberger's falling for me.
Yeah. What about Andy Dalton or Roethlisberger?
Dalton.
I have Roethlisberger. I'll probably stick with that.
Okay. So is Roethlisberger? Are your rankings updated right now?
Mine are not.
They are not. Okay, then never mind. All right. So Mariota is also an option. The Dolphins are really good. They're fourth best against quarterbacks. Mariota was fantastic last week, but hard to expect that.
But that's who you're turning to if you're in a deeper league. And Hurts was already picked up. Trubisky and Mayfield were already picked up. This is who's left is Mariota.
Yeah, I would take Dalton over him. I would take Tua over him. Like you said, Adam, they've been amazing against quarterbacks in their last 6 games, excuse me. Only one quarterback over 11 fantasy points, and that was Mahomes, who had 21. So, down Renfro already. It's down Ruggs if he's not able to play. I don't think there's much Mariota can do in this matchup.
Where do you anticipate ranking Matthew Stafford if he plays against Tampa Bay?
Still low.
Not top 12, but ahead of Roethlisberger.
He's just too much of a liability to leave the game early. Just so injured. What about Gardner Minshew? Why not?
Because they stink.
He's like a solid 20-ish. He scored 19 points against Baltimore. That's not bad. He scored 22 or more points in 5 of 7 starts. And the Bears, they're not that good against quarterbacks. So
It's true.
Not interested.
In 2 quarterback or super flex leagues, you're starting Gardner Minshew. In 1 quarterback leagues, if you got this far, I'd rather play Mariota.
I feel like Andy Dalton is like safe for 18 to 21. So he's been right around that pretty much each of the last 3 or 4 games.
Right.
I kind of think Minshew does have a little bit more upside than Dalton this week.
All righty. Let's go to the running backs. If you see Zach Moss, how would you feel about that, Dave Richard?
I'd say, hey, Zach, what's up?
Yeah.
Dap him up. See if he wants to go get, bite to eat or something like that, because I'm always eating. You're talking fantasy?
Yeah.
I think he's like number 3 running back, not somebody I'd be super excited about.
If I could take a total detour here, thinking about Dave seeing someone, you had a very nice tweet about Kevin Green. And
I did.
Yeah. Would you like to share?
Sure. Kevin Green came to one of our fantasy football shows. He was a guest. He was a speaker there back when we were doing fantasy shows. Jamie loved those, like 4 or 5 a year. And he loved football, and he even loved like sitting in front of a bunch of dudes in some sports bar in Miami, 100 dudes talking football and was coaching them up on, the differences between 3-4 and 4-3 and, what he looks for in a good defense, stuff like that. But he was totally engaged and into it and smiling and taking pictures with fans. And like for a day, I got to know Kevin Green a little bit, and it was exciting because I watched this maniac play on Sundays when I was a kid. And fast forward to going to the Hall of Fame 2 years ago for the King Classic draft. And his bust is unlike any other bust because of his hair. And it stands out when you're in the gallery of heroes. So it was cool to meet him, cool to know him for a day. And I'm really sad he's gone. He was somebody that made a difference in pro football.
What I didn't realize is that he only played 3 years with the Steelers. In my mind, he's like a lifetime Steeler. But he actually played most of his career with the Rams, finished with the Panthers. But yeah, Hall of Fame linebacker Kevin Green. Very sad to see the news yesterday. And
58, man, that's too young.
Yeah, terrible. All right.
He was also a good wrestler.
Yeah, that's right.
Wrestled in WCW, had a match with Steve McMichael that got a lot of attention. He lived a life, man. He lived a life. He should have lived a lot more. It's sad he's gone.
As far as the other running backs go, Sony Michelle, if against Buffalo, if Damian Harris is out, would you rather have Sony Michelle or
yes, the other guy,
Daryl Henderson?
It's close to non-PPR though.
I agree, but I'd still rather have Henderson.
If we're in a deep league, Jerick McKinnon, Daryl Williams, who's better?
I think I took Williams.
You take the upside of Daryl Williams, unless Wilson's out. I will go back to Moss for a second though, because you've seen what New England's run defense has been the last 2 weeks, and the last time these two teams met, he went for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns against them. So you could do worse than Zach Moss this week.
How about the Jaguars?
Sony Michelle.
How about the Jaguars running backs and Frank Gore going up against Cleveland? So it's honestly been 3 pretty good games recently for Frank Gore and a ton of work.
I'd go Gore over a Jaguars running back.
Yeah. Well, would you go Gore over Daryl Henderson?
No.
Nope.
Okay. And we're not interested in Nito Smith. All right.
No.
Wide receivers. So let's take a look at the guys who might be available in your leagues, but they are rostered in more than 65% of leagues. And tell me who you like. Tell me how much you like them. 0 to 10 on the Adometer. T. Higgins going up against Houston.
6.
5.
Curtis Samuel at Washington.
6.
5.
Marquise Brown against the Giants.
7.
Sounds good.
Nelson Aguilar against the Dolphins.
6.
3.7.
Yeah, without Mariota, I don't know. It's not as
or
good.
with Mariota, you mean?
Without
Carr, with Mariota.
There's nobody else to throw to besides Waller.
And Mariota's cool with that, apparently.
Yeah, he still got 8 targets against the Chargers. Just wasn't good with them. Emmanuel Sanders going up against Minnesota on Christmas.
7.
Jamie, did you say a number?
9.
9. Kiki QT against the Bengals.
8.
6.8.
All right. So it sounds like Sanders, Marquise Brown, and Kiki QT are our favorites there. Marquise Brown's been on fire. 3 straight games with a touchdown. Then he didn't have one last week, but he had 98 yards against Jacksonville. Not an easy matchup per se, but I doubt he will be shadowed by James Bradbury. So, yeah, he's looking good right now, finishing strong, going to give us a lot to think about going into 2021, that's for sure. Other than that, we got John Brown. We got Russell Gage. We've got Lynn Bowden and Chad Hansen. They've been good. Jamie, how do you feel about Bowden and Hansen?
If there's no Parker, Gesicki, or Grant, I love Lynn Bowden this week because the Raiders stink. And so it's a great opportunity for him, much easier matchup than he had last week. So, flex because he could play running back as well. So keep that in mind if you're stuck at running back too. But the nice thing is you'll know about the Dolphins' status earlier because their game is on Saturday. So if you have to make any decisions for any of your teams on Sunday.
All right, talk to me about the about the Washington game in Carolina. If I have Robbie Anderson, am I starting Russell Gage? Am I starting John Brown? Am I starting Chad Hansen over Robbie Anderson?
I think the first two you should, if Brown plays, especially if Diggs is out, and then Gage as well.
Dave, if I have Tyler Lockett, what am I doing this week?
You can consider other options, but I'd probably just suck it up with Lockett over the guys that we're talking about on the waiver wire.
The correct answer is you are sitting out and watching football because you are no longer in the fantasy club.
You could build a team and still have Tyler Lockett on it and play.
I advanced in a couple leagues with Lockett.
No, I'm just kidding. But Lockett against the Rams, I mean, ooh, boy, he's been bad for most of the last 10 or 11 weeks. And
sure, but if Wilson's going to be sensitive throwing at Jalen Ramsey, and if Ramsey's on DK Metcalf, that should mean a lot of targets for Lockett.
What did he do last time? I don't remember. I don't think it was very good. It wasn't an Arizona game. I know that. Let's see. Let's check the old game log here.
Like 5 for 66.
What was it?
5 for 66.
I don't like it. That's one of his better games recently.
See? Good old 11 PPR points.
Give yourself the option. He did have 9.
He had 9 targets, right?
If Jalen Hurts is going to be our top quarterback, obviously he's going to run, but the Cowboys have given up 92 yards or a touchdown to a wide receiver in every game. Who's it going to be, Jamie, for the Eagles?
Well, Jalen Reagor's hurt, so you got to keep an eye on that if he doesn't play. And Reagor led them in targets last week, so then it becomes the mess of Greg Ward, Quez Watkins, and Alshon Jeffrey. I would probably lean toward Ward just because he had the 2 touchdowns, and the targets were basically the same. It was like 5 or 6 for each of those guys. So I would just prioritize Ward if you're in a deeper league, and then maybe look at Jeffrey and Watkins as well. But he seems to have a connection with Ward, who he also threw a touchdown to in I believe the game where he came in for Wentz 2 weeks ago.
Yes, that's true. And I agree with you, but I did notice that Alshon was getting a couple of more than a couple. I think it was 3 or 4 deep ball targets where he's just running a sideline go route and drew up defensive pass interference on one, caught another one. So there's appeal with Alshon there too. Not that I would want to start him. He would be behind Ward for me.
Darnell Mooney is a deep league option. Jaguars are terrible against wide receiver.
Sure is.
And then I got to ask you about Kendrick Bourne. Richie James got hurt, and Bourne only had 4 targets, but he caught all of them for 80.
I didn't put Bourne on the list today.
Bourne had a Hail Mary on the last play of the game.
That is
a Hail Mary catch on the last play. Kind of pumped up his stats a little.
But no, yeah, it's really the Richie James injury, and who isn't injured. If Kittle doesn't play,
you might get 10 PPR points out of Kendrick Bourne.
Okay. Well, I thought we had to say his name. I'm glad we did. Tight ends. Now, roster percentages are just so weird this time of year. I can't imagine there are too many leagues where Mike Gesicki and Logan Thomas and Noah Fant are available. But Jamie just said Logan Thomas was available last week, and he's coming off in one of his leagues. He's coming off a 13 catch, 101 yard performance. So how do you sit him? Panthers have been horrible against tight ends lately. Gesicki would obviously be a good start at Las Vegas. How would you feel about Noah Fant at the Chargers this week? They've allowed 10 touchdowns to tight ends. It's 3rd most in the NFL.
Noah, thank you.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Yeah. He's top 12. He is, especially in PPR. It was good to see him involved last week.
Great. And Drew Lock was looking for him. His matchup's good, like you said. So you could buy back in.
Yeah, he had 7 catches for 47 yards in the first meeting against the Chargers. We like Higbee and Hooper. If you can't get them, you look at Jordan Akins. And Jamie mentioned Durham Smythe for the Dolphins if Gesicki's out. What about the guys who were the flavor of the week last week? Cole Kmet at Jacksonville, Irv Smith at New Orleans. Any interest there? Okay.
The thing that concerns me about, and you could obviously make the case with Baker, but with Trubisky, I mean, they're actually running the ball. And that's, last week, 32 carries for David Montgomery was amazing. I can see him doing the same thing this week.
Yeah. Dawson Knox, Dan Arnold. Knox is at New England. Dan Arnold has San Francisco. Both those teams are great against tight ends. Are they sits? No thanks. No thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point it's kind of like I said, it's Hooper or Higbee if those guys are available, and then you're just kind of crossing your fingers with some of these other guys if you're stuck. Like Irv Smith might be interesting again if you want to take that chance to go that route with him, but the fact that they didn't feature him more was a little frustrating.
Yeah, Conklin had too much work there. And there's one more guy, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz had 7 targets, 2 catches, 69 yards. He's facing Dallas. They've been a lot better against tight ends lately. But what's your interest level in Ertz? 65% rostered. Dave?
Not very high. He had a couple of big catches last week, but I don't think he's ever going to get back to that main target role in Philadelphia.
I should probably put him third. He'd be better than Akins.
Anybody would be better than Akins.
Well, Akins gets end zone. Like, if Akins keeps dropping touchdowns, he dropped 2 against the Lions. He dropped 1 against the Bears. We'd probably be thinking about him a lot differently if he caught those. And Jared Cook is also something. Like, Ertz or Cook?
Cook.
Ertz.
Cook, Ertz. All right. DSTs, Bears, Texans, Cardinals. Bears are at the Jaguars. Texans get the Bengals. This one really makes me nervous, though, because, like, Houston has been so bad all year. They were bad against the Jaguars. They were bad against the Patriots. They were bad at the Bears. They were good one time against the Jaguars. But I don't know. How do you balance this? I know it's a great matchup, but, man, there's such a bad defense in the Texans. All right, well, you have to think about it. And then the Cardinals. Dave likes the Cardinals a lot. They've been good in 3 of their last 4 games. They have 14 sacks in their last 2 games against the Giants and Eagles, and the Niners have been a very good matchup lately. Ryan Suckup, Cody Parkey, Kaimi Fairbairn are your kickers. We have a little bit of time. I'm going to read some emails, guys, if you wouldn't mind. I was not prepared for this, so just give me a moment. Let me get those emails.
Please read
up.
in a Bane voice. Please read in a Bane voice. Please read in a Bane voice.
So how are you guys doing? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good.
All right, just need okay, here we go. From Christopher. All right. Jeff Wilson, this PPR. Jeff Wilson, Tony Pollard, and and JD McKissick. Pick 2 in PPR. Wilson, Pollard, McKissick.
Pollard, Wilson, McKissick.
Okay.
I might put in PPR. Would I put McKissick over Wilson? Pollard would for sure be there. I think I'd do it.
Okay. And a DST, Rams, Browns, Cardinals, Bills.
Browns.
Yeah,
Browns.
Cleveland.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like you knew it was going to be at the beginning of the year.
Let's see what else we got. From Ryan. All right, Ryan from the home of the Walleye and Mud Hens. So Toledo.
Yes, that sounds right.
My 20-plus year CBS league has used the highest scoring teams advancing to the next round in all playoff weeks. I think I like that. It happened to me this week. I was the 2nd highest scoring team, and I'm not moving on. As Chris stated on Monday's show, that should be considered as an option for leagues. No, Chris, I said that. That's me, baby.
What did Chris say?
I don't remember what Chris said. I think Chris and Ben were anti. Maybe Ben, you were there. You were paying attention. What did Chris say?
Liked it. I'm against it. It's not how any playoff system works in any competition you'll ever see.
If your fantasy league is points scored and you're not playing head-to-head each week, then that's how your playoff should be. But if you're playing head-to-head each week like a normal fantasy league, then so should your playoffs.
Okay. All right. There wasn't really a question. There was just that comment. From Matt in Toronto. No, I don't want to read this one. See, this is what happens when I don't prepare. I'm going to save this one for a later date. The question is, what is your dream league setup? I want some starter sits right now. Let's see if this is starter sit. Okay, here we go. This is from Travis in mid-Michigan, Dave.
Oh, God. Mid-Michigan, I don't know if I can come up with anything. So let's just go with Grand Rapids, which is definitely not mid-Michigan.
Dear Brian, Kirk, Jeff, and Connor. I don't know. Are those Michigan State quarterbacks or something?
Could be.
Maybe. Wilson or Tannehill?
I think it is.
You get 0.2 points for passing first down.
Yeah, Tannehill.
Andrews or Hawkinson? Half PPR.
Andrews.
Hilton, Parker, DJ Moore.
I think Moore is who I'm going to take of the 3. Hopefully you can start Hilton too.
Travis is playing his girlfriend, so big week for him.
So he's going to lose either way.
One more from BT. Nope, this is not a question. Tonight I was down by 8.32 points with the Browns defense left to play. I didn't get it until the last minute of the fourth quarter with a sack. The final was 162.54 to 161.86. Damn. One on a sack in the last minute. That's awesome. Congratulations to BT. That is big time, BT. That's it for us. For Dave, Jamie, and Ben, I'm Adam. Thanks a lot.
So the Browns rewarded people this week, but left them disappointed the week before.
Refresh my memory.
Yeah, they had the safety at the end of the game.
Oh, that's stupid.
Remember Landry took the
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. Now I do. Now that you reminded me, I remember. All right, that's it, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you on Twitch tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow with a little Dynasty talk, a little tough call for Week 16 talk. You know the drill. See you then.
Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.